Hello, today is November 11th, Veterans Day apparently. That is a topic for another conversation. Those poor suckers have been duped into enslaving the entirety of the human population merely by following orders of despots and tyrants, seeking nothing but an expansion of their ego and the resources of others. But that's not the main topic I wanted to discuss. Perhaps I've already mentioned in a previous video, I've recently discovered the depths of the material that has been put forth by a gentleman named David Whitehead. He's he doesn't look much older than me, somewhere up in Canada, and he has been on the truth movement for what sounds like 15 to 20 years. His work is prolific, to say the least, very polished. He is the co-host with Michael Tessarion, which I've mentioned in previous videos on their podcast called Unslaved. And he is also releasing, and the trailer for part 5 just came out, a documentary called Cult of the Medics, which is the best documentary I've seen in its time and place since literally I just watched episodes 3 and 4, and you're seeing clips of news items, particularly pertaining to COVID-19, that are happening in the last few months. And it's been very moving, to say the least. I've certainly ripped the lid off of my brain a few years ago to start absorbing all of this type of information. And yet I was still kind of rocked, shaken, shook, whatever, by his delivery, because it's bringing back to the forefront the suffering that is happening in the present moment. And it's one thing to study the past and try to have an accurate view of history, to say the least, and look at the events that have transpired, and the farther away they are in time, linearly speaking, the more removed you are, the less emotion you have associated with it, the more, not callous you are, but you almost look at it from a distance, like, well, that was then and this is now. And that divide of time leads one to believe that those things are not happening now. In reality, there's been a vast amount of suffering all over the world, minus certain pockets, specifically here in the United States. And so people are disconnected, and that is the word I would use to sum up the problem everyone is facing on a whole, is that we're just disconnected from literally everything. But in this instance, we're disconnected from the repercussions of the actions we take, whether that's our president sending off the military to go fight in different countries under false flags for the reasons of security, when in fact it is just an usurpation of our civil liberties and the blatant, overt, hot theft of resources of other countries. So in watching especially part 3, and again, these are ideas that I've already been open to, but you're seeing captured, on live footage, what other people are going through here in the States with the lockdowns and the mandates and the police overreach, to put it mildly, of trying to enforce any of these rules that are, and I'm no constitutionalist, but unconstitutional in the very fact that they're, locking people up for trying to express their own personal liberties. So his podcast, or this documentary, is pushing forward and about to plumb the depths of the question of the bigger question of why evil exists in the first place. And I'm very excited to see his take on that. He'll definitely be drawing from Tessarion, and as Passio alluded to in his Cosmic Abandonment special presentation, that when one sits down to really think about it, there can only be a few reasons why bad things are happening. And that conversation, that idea, leaves a lot of people unsettled, to say the least, because you either have to accept the idea that our God, with a capital G, or what I'd call Trog, created the human race with this known deficiency of our desire for evil, of what Mark would describe as primary psychopathy, which is different than secondary psychopathy, which is what all the order followers, that's the spell that they're under, where they're willing to follow the sick, twisted thoughts of the primary psychopaths. Is that a word? Psychopaths. Which are the ones everyone thinks about when they think of evil, when they have no actual physical power. So this topic, either you have to accept, again, that God with a capital G, or the potential that we were not created in the way that we've been led to believe in the last 2,000 years, notwithstanding the ancient information on clay tablets from the Sumerian age that have been discovered and translated that would suggest that we are actually meddled with, that our origin is one of a different beginning, perhaps extraterrestrial in nature, regarding the origins of our DNA, which would also explain the potential of why so much, 97% as they say, is junk DNA, or just hasn't been unlocked, or has been intentionally tampered with, and perhaps in their splicing of DNA they allowed, or intentionally or mistakenly, got sloppy, and there was some sort of disposition fundamentally built into us for primary psychopathy, and what is now translating into evil. And it should be important to point out there's a difference between our human condition, which would be the events transpiring now and what we've done in the past, and our human nature, which would be the absolute hardwired, this is the way it is, literally in blood, for the actions that humans take. And I'm of the opinion and agreement that the human nature is that we are programmable, but the human condition is that we have been programmed into our evil ways, so to speak, into our misgivings. It is not that people are inherently born good or bad, that we have the ability through choice, free will, to take in information, analyze it, and then take proper action. So that's the trivium: input, analysis, output, knowledge, understanding, wisdom being right action. So we have the free will choice to take the right actions, but our disposition, our nature, is that we are programmable like a computer, and those writing the codes in our environment surrounding us have maliciously, interfered with that programming, and that has led to our evil. So as I arrive here, I think I'll bring it to an end, since that was a little bit of a wandering ramble, but certainly some ideas for you to ponder on. In the meantime, highly encourage you to go check out David Whitehead and his work, specifically the documentary series Cult of the Medics. See ya.